Today, I'm going to talk about why socialism is so popular today. So, one reason is that socialism is egalitarian. People like that, they like equality. Now, equality can be good. Equality before the law is a fundamental legal principle in Western society that the law should, at least, view and treat all people the same. I'm not sure it actually does that, but it should. We also generally value treating people equally or holding people to similar standards as an important quality or a strategy when interacting with other people. I think that in general, um, in Western society, we also like to view other people as equals, regardless of social status or anything like that. Um, we dislike rigid social hierarchies and class systems, and um, and just sort of unconsciously, I think that we tend to, especially in Canada. I guess it's probably different from other countries or in other countries, but in Canada, I just feel like that's not really something that plays a big part in how we interact with each other. But equality can also be bad. So, in order for societies to evolve into prosperous, modern capitalist economies, you need inequality. You need a good measure of inequality, because otherwise, how are you gonna? Who's gonna build a skyscraper? Who's gonna build a factory? You need some people to have more than others. Too much equality delays the growth of society, and that happened in China. For a long time, China was way ahead of the West in terms of technological development, obviously in terms of population. So why did the West sort of slingshot ahead of China? It was because China's culture and economy was too equal, um, and so that sort of delayed their their growth, and they had sort of like an arrested civilization. Also, I don't think necessarily we should treat all people equally. I think that we should discriminate. For example, you should treat your friends better than you treat your enemies. You should treat loved ones better than you treat strangers. I think that's fine and reasonable. Another reason why socialism is so popular is it provides an epic narrative of good versus evil. Um, the oppressed working class nobly, producing all the wealth for society, and then the evil capitalist moochers who are stealing their surplus value. That's sort of a good tale. It's got the elements of a good story. It's not true, but it's got the elements of a good story. Sort of in the same way that Ayn Rand novels do the opposite. They have, the evil villain, the government planner or whatever, and then the noble capitalist hero. Uh, that's a good story, because it has these very sharp characters and provides a very good narrative. So another reason why socialism is popular is because it encourages the victim mentality. People aren't responsible for their lot in life or for not being very successful because they're exploited by the evil capitalist class that sort of vacuum up all the resources and don't leave anything left for the poor workers. Um, People like to view themselves as victims, to play the victim, to get sympathy or attention. and it's a very satisfying way of dealing with your failings and failure in life is to view yourself as the victim and not to say, well, what am I doing that can be changed? What are my faults or my flaws? But to say, no, it's all the evil capitalist fault. They're exploiting society, and that's why things are so bad. Um, so another reason why socialism is very popular is because it promises a free lunch. People love the idea of a free lunch or something for free. That appeals to people. Oh, that's great. I don't have to do anything to get it. I don't have to work. I can just have it. Phenomenal. That's what I want. That's why politicians are so popular. They're always promising free lunches. Yeah, we'll give you free healthcare, free education, free dental care, free pharma care, whatever you want. Free, free, free. And of course, the politician isn't going to pay for that themselves. They're going to take the public's money, the taxpayers' money. So there is no free lunch. There is wealth redistribution. So it is possible through the state to plunder others. Um, but of course, that's not a free lunch, that's a stolen lunch, which is quite different. Another reason why socialism is so popular is because it does have laudable goals, helping out the poor, improving the lot of the working class. These are important goals. Absolutely, that's the right agenda. The people who have the least, they're the ones who need help more than the rich or the well off. And that's one of the problems with the sort of left right class war divide is that the right, all too often, or conservatives, do take the side of the well off, the powerful, and the wealthy, the politically connected, um, instead of championing uh, the consumer or everybody. Um, so so a lot of the goals of socialism, raising wages for workers, um, these sort of things. These are good goals, but of course the means that the socialists use to obtain them don't work. So it just fails. So you can pursue these goals, but you have to have the right policy set. For example, wages, you want to raise wages. Well, increasing the minimum wage is not going to do that. But so, how do you raise wages? Well, you have to go after inflation. See, if there's no inflation, if in fact you had a stable money supply, where the money supply did not increase every year, but was kept the same, there's no inflation, you would have a little healthy deflation, and people would be encouraged to save their money because next year it would be worth more. So you would devote more of your budget from consumption to savings than you would in an inflationary environment. Some people would. So this would lead to a greater supply of loanable funds, and that in turn would lead to capital formation, capital accumulation. So capital accumulation, along with technological development, leads to higher wages for workers. So that's how you do it. It's a complicated process. It involves fiscal restraint on the part of the government, which is a bit of a pipe dream, but that would actually work as opposed to it's easy to pass a law. If anyone can pass a law, that's not going to work. What the minimum wage law is going to do is make people unemployed. Another another reason why socialism is so popular is because its arguments are very easy to understand and hard to refute. They're hard to refute um, in a manner that the audience will understand your counter argument and accept it. So socialism says there's poverty here. Let's do something about it. Let's give them money. Let's raise the minimum wage. Let's uh, tax the rich. Right? These are simple and powerful arguments. Taxing the rich. Right? Uh, if you want something, if you want, let's say you're eating dinner and you want butter for your food, you go and take it, right? If it's on the other side, or ask somebody to pass it to you. Um, so, so that's if you want money to go from the rich to the poor, you go and take it. That's the sort of the socialist argument. We need to redistribute wealth from the rich to the poor. We need to tax the rich, and then engage in social spending. Or, I mean, that's sort of the welfare state approach. Obviously, another socialist approach would be workers' councils or state-owned industry. But I imagine almost all socialists are very sympathetic to the welfare state and to other sort of measures like that. So, so these are uh, arguments that are very easy to understand. Care about the poor. The environment's important. All these things. Okay. The arguments against that are very, very complex, very sophisticated, difficult to understand. The arguments in favor of voluntarism, or you know, uh, so for example, if a poor person's hungry, they steal a loaf of bread. The socialists will champion that. They'll say, look, it's unjust for this guy to not have bread. It's just costs very little. Uh, But I think the argument, in favor of property rights, in favor of um, property rights, even in the case of overwhelming human need, very very difficult argument to make, but an important one, because without property rights, you can't get the sort of society that we enjoy today in the West. And socialism is fundamentally opposed to property rights. That's the main thing they oppose. Um, Another thing, okay, take school lunches, right? Like, who can be against feeding poor kids? That's just, you know, uh, that's such a difficult case to make, even though there are arguments against it. That for example, it is the taxation is theft, and school lunches are funded by taxation. You it's wrong to use coercion as a means of obtaining revenue. That's the whole taxation is theft argument, right? Um, so there's that argument. But that's a very sophisticated, it's a hard argument to refute in itself convincingly, but it's not one that people are gonna uh, understand that easily. You have to go through it and think about it, and B, it doesn't have the same visceral emotional appeal of feeding school lunches. But there's other arguments against school lunches too. Are they going to contract out for the lunches? How much are they going to pay? It could be incredibly expensive. That's going to come out of the pockets of ordinary folk. Are they means tested? Often they're not. So now you've got workers who might not even have kids. They're paying taxes, so some rich family doesn't have to buy their kids lunch anymore. There's problems with it. Maybe the lunches aren't particularly high quality, or of sufficient nutritional value. Even there's conflicting schools of thought when it comes to nutrition, right? So one group says fat is bad, so they make the lunches low fat. Another group says, well, no, fat is good for you. That's what the human body runs off of. So there's conflicting beliefs there. So what are they going to do? Which school of thought are they going to go with? Um, should the lunches be vegetarian? So there's a lot into that. Um, there are arguments against school lunch programs. You know, there's an argument against the public school system in the first place, right? Um, let's move on. So, socialism is popular. Socialism, especially if we go broader and say leftism, very popular among celebrities, academics. A lot of people like that, and so there's the desire to appeal or be part of the in group and to emulate others, emulate people you respect, people you look up to. And then finally, we have the actions of socialists. So, one thing that should not be ignored or neglected is the role that socialists themselves have played in spreading the ideas of socialism, in organizing, in building groups, in engaging in political action, and putting people in places of power. The socialist movement is very large and very powerful in a lot of countries, certainly in Canada. It is one of the dominant political movements, and a lot of that is because of the actions of socialists. They have done a lot of the work in terms of spreading their ideology and indoctrinating other people in it. Yeah, so that's my video on why socialism is popular. Let me know what you think. If you agree or disagree, I'd love to hear your opinion and know what you think.